All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to VOK for another installment in our Westworld Season 2 review series here. Episode 8, was it? Just aired on Sunday. So we'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 7 and Episode 8. My name is Adam. I'm also known as Drownedsnow on the forums. And with me I have Matt.
Hey, it's Blue Armor on the forums.
And Dana.
Taindana on the forums.
And maybe someone else will appear out of a egg later on once they upload themselves. All right. So, what did you guys think? These were two very different episodes.
It was my least favorite episode of the season, followed by the best episode that the show's probably ever done.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, that'd be my overall impression.
Yeah, so I mean, episode 7, just to we'll backtrack a little bit. A lot happened and nothing happened, right?
Right, it was a lot of confrontations, and
yeah,
everyone just kind of walked away.
It was a lot of storylines kind of interacting and crossing paths, but then kind of going back on their way on the other side when we thought like half of the main characters were going to die, it seemed, but I don't think anyone did. So that was interesting.
Yeah, there might be a couple.
Yeah, we'll see. How is William alive exactly? Because I mean, he gets shot, and you're like, okay, shot like above the heart and the shoulder. Okay, whatever, he's shot, and then he gets shot like in the other shoulder, and then in both legs, and then like, I mean, I could have sworn I saw him shot in the head at one point.
Yeah, they pretty much hit every limb.
Yeah, I guess they're playing by the old school movie rules. Hit him in the limb, it's a flesh wound, it's cool. Like, like you just need 5 minutes to rest and you're good. Oh man.
I think it was in like one of the earlier episodes where like he was like retrieving like a stash or whatever and just like straight up punched through like a wall. And so I kept expecting at some point this season to like reveal that he has like some sort of like robotic enhancements like done to him just to like help him move, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just kind of the way the writing is, and it led to the whole like William is a host thing, which I hope is not true.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because
that would be kind of lame, just for the narrative. But I mean, I guess there are definitely things like this that would support that, right?
Yeah.
Or he could be like Spotted Horse. Spotted Horse can't be killed by a bullet, so that could be it. Quick in the Dead reference now. Okay. Anyway, kind of bothers me a little bit, but yeah. And then Maeve got like, I don't know, like 10 bullets, just right through her back. So, but we know that they're used to that and they can repair that, which it seems they're deciding not to do, which kind of sucks. So that might be the end for her. I don't feel like they're done with her, but
no.
I guess it could be.
I mean, she's probably the most popular character on the show at this point. Like, I'd be surprised if they got rid of her. She's sort of the hero.
Yeah. That's what I feel, but I think Bean had said, like, she would be content if they did, like, her stories. Like, she's got them protecting her daughter, not daughter. But yeah, I think there's more to come from her. But in let's see, episode 7 picks up after they crashed the train car, which didn't really seem to be necessary at all. But
yeah, I'm about to say Bernard and Elsie just strolled right in. No one noticed.
Yeah, there was no one down there, like But I guess they cause a distraction, take out a bunch of the security teams, dress up as security teams. It's just like this very elaborate thing. It's also the mesa's quite big and probably too big for them to really cover because obviously there's areas where they never get to, like where they're down working on the dead hosts and all that.
Right.
So, yeah. And Dolores leaves Maeve for dead, but almost kills her because she's like, they'll use her as a weapon against us, which is probably what's actually what they're thinking of doing.
Yeah, seems like what's happening.
Yeah. But I mean, I do like Sizemore's idea was like, hey, you just gotta heal her, and then like she'll help us. And they're like, oh no, we're just gonna like figure out what's useful and try to like make it work for us. We don't actually need her. And then he was kind of heartbroken about that, which is an interesting turn for him. They've actually given him a lot to work with this season after being such a despicable character in season 1. Yeah, I was like, he's a throwaway character. He'll be killed very quickly. And they've actually kind of turned that around and brought some humanity to him, which proves that everybody's got feelings, right?
Right. I mean, he's now 3-dimensional. They just never bothered making him a 3-dimensional character.
He drank and didn't know things. That was kind of his thing.
And he hasn't completely like turned face. He still is doing all these just like shitty Sizemore things, but
right.
in 3 dimensions, I guess. Like it's quite nice. I do like him.
Yeah.
As a character, as watching him, not as an actual human being. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think they've made him worth the time they've put on the screen now.
Yeah, he's certainly more
when
interesting.
When he comes on, like when he opens his mouth. It's
right. You don't just look at him and go, ugh, I know it's coming. Can we get him out of the scene?
Right. Let's move along here.
But another character that's done an about face is Teddy, albeit forced. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not really liking where that's going, I think. But he murdered a heck of a lot of people in that episode.
Yeah, I knew Teddy breaks my heart. But I guess he's meant to, so yay, success. I really look forward to it biting Dolores on the ass. Her trying to get rid of her greatest weakness, but I guess her feelings for Teddy, but then it completely ruining her in some way.
Yeah. Speaking of, so is Lawrence is dead, right? Like he's gone.
So yeah, I mean the two. So Angela's definitely gone.
Right.
I'm pretty confident, and yeah, it seemed like that Lawrence and Clementine also died as well.
Clementine for sure.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if they'll bring them Lawrence, back at all.
I felt like I don't know. He was they still had their little buddy cop thing going, so I kind of felt like there was he was going to be of some use or had a purpose there, but they bring his memories kind of back up where he's like, oh yeah, I kind of hate this guy because he's like done lots of despicable things to me over the years, and then immediately he's just gone. So I don't know if that was like kind of completion of his arc. Is that the idea? I don't know. See, he wasn't really awake yet, right?
Nah, he was starting to get there.
Yeah.
Both their storylines just seem unfinished, whereas Angela's has like a nice button on it with. Even though that scene was stupid, like the Welcome to Westworld line was pretty dope. That felt like a fitting end, but those other two just kind of got mowed down.
Yeah, that scene was kind of weird, and I don't understand. I mean, they show up and they want to destroy the cradle because it has the backup, so that they can't be overwritten, I guess, or. It's weird that they know about it. I don't know. Just the whole thing is kind of weird, but we have to just kind of go with some of it, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Also, like, Creepy Ford taking over Bernardold. Yeah, because, I guess now we're convinced that, like, Bernard is basically the fabricated version of Arnold, not just in looks, but like also kind of personality, right? Like as best as Ford could make him like his old partner, that's what he did.
Right, yeah.
But they also tell us that there was no scan copy of Arnold, which is weird because that scene we get where Dolores is like talking to him and doing the fidelity test, that doesn't really add up to that, so who knows.
I actually really liked the way that they did that because they didn't have an actual copy of his personality and everything on on file, I think. Whatever they would use.
Right,
on
right.
egg.
Like,
On
yeah,
egg,
like,
yeah. So they essentially created one from their memories, and the two people that knew them best being Arnold and Dolores, and being able to use the cradle to essentially
train him,
like machine learning, just over and over again. And like even within there, where you have almost infinite time within a couple of years, like how many times can you run a simulation? It's still taking many, many, many years. I really like that idea of just a proto version of Dolores in the cradle, just making this Arnold
over and over
copy.
Again.
Yeah, and when it fails, like not so much starting from the beginning, but going on and on. I did quite like that, and I do like how they show Ford in Arnold Bernard's head, how he appears in glass and then takes over his body, and they flicker between the two images. But when he always seems, almost like you're afraid of your own reflection. That's only me after watching, horror movies or even trailers for horror films where they have any of that reflection shit in it. Thanks, Hereditary. But it's like that kind of thing in there, just the reflection not showing who you actually are, or showing who you are actually. It's 8 a.m. in the morning. I give up with sentences. I'm done. The cradle is still lame though. Just
Yeah.
It's probably what made I don't know if it's just me, or I feel like they introduced the idea of the cradle in episode 4, and
not that long ago.
Yeah, and then didn't build it to be anything, where I think you could have something like really tense in the hosts trying to get the cradle and then realizing that Ford is in it. So a character that you like, their only life is within this cradle, and they're trying to destroy it. And I feel like that could be a really nice tense setup, but instead I just get really mad because it seems like they introduced something so important so late in the game just to take it out a couple episodes later with no real impact on anything.
Right, like we don't understand the consequence of their action because we don't fully understand like what it all does. Like all we know is, for sure is that it's it's their backup storage for all their personalities and stuff, but it seems to be more beyond that, besides the whole simulation thing. And yeah, it's tough to tell exactly what impact destroying the cradle has, like on, the facilities in the park itself.
Some of it's probably just the cold storage, right, where they run everyone on loops just to kind of keep them fresh. The latest update or whatever they run on a loop.
Right, yeah, they just have the normal loop running all the time. That would clearly be how they could tell, when a host is off their loop. Like they would just, see a discrepancy between where they're at in the park and where they're supposed to be,
right.
in the cradle itself.
But something very interesting we discover in the next episode, though, is we've sort of it's kind of been kind of vague how closely they monitor things, and it does seem that like the hosts have to come back and jack in or whatever. To update and to, for them to get those downloads, the information they're getting off the guests and all that. Because,
right.
we learned that, there's a host that just stayed alive for like a decade, so that's crazy.
Yeah, that was a pretty...
I love that because just they expect everyone to be killed regularly enough to be updated. Have a sneaky host. Like, even the children, they just expect everyone to die.
Clearly, I guess they're monitoring some of the guests and stuff, and they monitor, like, the main towns and all that. So, like, if someone is off book, like we see, like, in the first season, where they're like, okay, bring them in to fix the problem or whatever, right? But, like, those are people that are interacting with guests all the time. Clearly, it's like they built, the Ghost Nation, and then just sort of like, okay, they're like, we use them when we want, and if they don't run in line with the stories and go out and kill people and get killed, then, like, whatever. But, like, no one goes out to visit them and live with them and, like none of the guests take a huge interest, I guess. So neither do the programmers.
Granted, yeah, I mean it's still like a massive oversight on their part. I mean that seemed to be happening all the time in season 1, where they just weren't very good at monitoring things as they should be.
Right.
But I also feel to perhaps logically explain that away, where it might be the case that if a host is able to break free and become free in the sense that Dolores is trying to do this season, they might be somehow be able to break away from the system itself,
Make it harder to track.
Yeah, they can no longer be tracked.
Yeah, because the woodcutter, I think they only went looking for the woodcutter because all those people, they realized they'd been caught in a loop for days when they didn't show up, right?
Yeah. And
then they found them, and then they went looking for him. So it's not like they knew he was just off. But the same thing with what's his girl's name? Kohana. Like they find her. Yeah. I think that those guys just happened to be there and found her, right? And they were like, "Hey, she shouldn't be here."
Maybe, but yeah, I wouldn't.
Or do you think like they were sent to find her specifically and not him?
See, I would think that because she hadn't broken free yet, that they might have been sent to find her specifically.
Yeah, and I guess him being like kind of the roving, warrior, like maybe he's like his program can kind of have him anywhere. Versus her, like she stays in a confined area. That might be the way it is.
Yeah, it's possible.
But yeah, so I guess he was the first host to wake up, kind of.
Yeah.
But still in a very similar way to Dolores, with the Ford mentioning it's an old theory that they no longer subscribe to with the maze, and the no, it's not bicentennial, biquinal. It was a name of an episode.
It's bicameral mind. Right?
Yeah, based on a weird theory about.
Yeah, bicameral is definitely something else, right?
But so he woke up in exactly the same way as Dolores, but was not heavily messed with by Arnold / Bernard. In a way, I really liked it. It's kind of like here's the maze, and just sit by yourself and figure it out. And he did.
Yeah.
And was able to get other people to figure it out. Here's a picture. Let it mess with you.
And he just like seeded the picture everywhere. Like that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
it's just crazy.
But it was also part of their programming, where they were programmed to kind of have like a spirituality and religion about them, and that kind of like helped them make logical sense of the whole thing.
No, I mean it makes sense, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird that like he just kind of walks into that massacre, with dead Arnold, because like the park wasn't open yet, right? So I guess they were just kind of right nearby doing their own thing, and seemingly unaffected by that.
I mean, it was in beta essentially. So they were still like
alpha, she says. But
the sense that we know it, where they the park wasn't open, but they were doing test runs to get everything working. So he just happened to stumble upon the scene while he was in his loop.
Yeah, and there was no one else out there. So I mean, we were led to believe that Arnold was the only human that was killed, right? And so he was probably the only one there at the time, like staff-wise.
Yeah,
I would think. Yeah. Let's see. Let's go back a minute to episode 7. I mean, was there anything else really? It just kind of ended disappointingly.
Yeah, I mean, I could list
they
out
brought Anthony Hopkins back.
Oh yeah, that was the one good part of the episode.
William thinking that his daughter was a host. Was that episode 6 or episode 7?
It was 6, and then he thought. And he thought Maeve was a host in this episode. Like he thought Ford was controlling Maeve in this episode, in episode 7 as
Oh
well.
yeah.
He's like, "Oh, you're just part of the game," and then she's like,
really self-centered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not all about you. I mean, there's a large part of it that is about you, but not all of it.
As an old rich white dude, most of the world's about you, but at the moment other shit's happening.
Yeah, so at this point, I guess, with the cradle shut down, it's not affecting the other systems. They were able to get control of a lot of stuff, and Ford is now in Bernard, so does that mean he's not going to, like, speak through these other people, or... I mean, I don't really understand that part yet.
Right, yeah, I mean,
we'll see.
Yeah, we don't know how much control he has over the mesh network. That would be, he could try to do stuff like Maeve does, but he hasn't demonstrated that ability yet.
Right.
So yeah, no, I think his goal is just
because I mean, he couldn't control Arnold until he, came to visit him, and then he was like, "All right, I'm taking over. I've got things to do."
Right, and he doesn't.
What?
I mean, he doesn't have full control over Arnold. It's just that, like, the personality built into Bernard is, like, acquiescing to Ford, but I'm sure he'll be able to break free eventually.
Right. Well, but I mean, we see 2 weeks later, really confused Bernard with how maybe it was like a revived Arnold. Now I'm not really sure again. I keep, maybe it is Teddy. Maybe it's Ford. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it's Maeve. It could be. Yeah. At this point, like, they've done a good job of giving us options, I suppose.
But yeah, I think, I mean, the two good parts of this episode, were the Ford and Bernard discussions. I mean, it's just nice to have Anthony Hopkins back monologuing again. Like, he just does it so much better than everyone else. And overall, the confrontation between Maeve and William was good until it was just interrupted.
Yeah, I definitely wish that had gone a different way.
Yeah, I mean, like, besides that, I could list out all my complaints of just illogical shit that happens.
Like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense.
But yeah,
she goes to blow up the cradle without any explosives, and conveniently, there's a merc there that has a grenade. Stuff like that.
Yeah, he doesn't shoot her. Like, I don't know how.
Like, he knows murderous robots are running around, and he's like somehow hypnotized. Like,
right, yeah.
It's just the power of boners, man. The power of boners.
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
And she took off her body armor too.
How she get explosives. She willed him to be there with explosives.
I know, it's like the fucking others taking down the wall all over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't understand how the Delos guys made it to Maeve and the Man in Black before Maeve's companions did, or why they even showed up at all. When their main mission was to get the stuff out of Peter Abernathy. I mean, a lot of it's bad.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that had issues with that episode, because
a lot of people did. I think they were. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it was mostly transitional, trying to get us on to the next thing, and there were a few important things that happened that will come up, I think, in these last 2 episodes. But overall, it was some of these you thought things were coming to a head, and it was a little disappointing the way they either the interaction was really quick, or it's like, oh, everyone's dead, yeah.
And I think it would be really hard to write and shoot something as satisfying as after the Shogun World episodes.
Right. I mean, overall, this season has just been much better than last season. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So this is just a minor slip up, and Hannah also jumped on the call.
Well, thanks for adding me. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. So, what did you think of episode 7?
Oh, I liked it a lot. That's probably my favorite episode.
No, the one, it's not 8, 7. The one before that.
No, I think both of them coupled together. My initial reaction to 7 was I think that this coupled with the next one will be my 2 favorite of the series. And I stick to my original theories. I think it's.
They're not all hosts. They're not all hosts.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're all hosts, but I think there's something going on there.
Some sort of Jacob's Ladder scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very clearly where they're pointing, and I'm not like sure how it'll unfold yet, but I kind of feel like that's more interesting than it's just a park that goes haywire. Like we already have Jurassic Park, and that's stupid enough as it is. So.
I still think that would be so cheap. But yeah. Anyway, we were talking about how the Cradle was a bit of a disappointment, but and we were going to get back into episode 8, which was a very slow burn. It felt very long, which I don't think it was that much longer than any of the other episodes we've had this season, actually. But that's just a pacing thing. But it was great. I mean, I feel like what they did was they decided they wanted to go back and weave some things together to try to make some stuff make sense. You know, like the maze being carved all over the place and stuff. And they came up with this as a way to do it, and it actually worked out really well. So I was very impressed, even though I had to read a lot of subtitles.
Oh, come on! Don't be the typical American here.
That's not an American thing. I read a lot of subtitles. It's just I was in bed, the TV's small in my room, and I'm like, oh crap! I like squint to see the subtitles. So
yeah, subtitles means that I need to watch TV with my glasses. So as soon as I realize, exactly. I'm like, now I can't put my head on a pillow because it hurts my cheek, and subtitles can be a pain, but not with this episode. I feel like it was completely just his narrative this episode. But did we see anything else?
Like there was a bit with Maeve,
and with
but they kind of wove that into his story,
right?
As well.
Yeah, and they brought Grace/Emily like to him.
Yeah, she shows up, and I mean, she says she's got like a worse torture for her dad than he would have, which I don't know if I necessarily believe that. Is that just
family
her way to?
Dinner.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna make him live and be a good father.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
is she lying to just kind of get them out? Or I mean, some people said they thought it was weird that she spoke their language, which I thought she'd spent a lot of time in the park, so whatever.
Yeah,
but
she's been going to the park since she was a kid. Like that's fine.
And even
she's probably one of the few people that was like, "I'll go live with the Indians," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's shown like they. It's a honey trap, it was a honeypot trap because they weren't actually Ghost Nation arrows, and she's mentioned
she knew that really
in the past.
Yeah, that's true.
She knew the language because, and she mentions like most people in the park don't pay attention to them, but she has.
She's like that one friend you had growing up who knew like all the secret tricks to like Super Mario. It's like, how many hours did you spend playing this game? Because that was like before everyone had internet, and you could just look it up. Dedication.
Kind of, yeah. That's something
well-worn like copies of like Nintendo magazines with all the cheat sheets.
Yeah, you know, it's like.
Yeah, and
you just had to go outside and play with your video games to discover things. In the old days.
Right, and given William's proclivities, he probably just brought her to the park and let her do whatever she want while he was...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He probably just abandoned her to, like, the kid-friendly areas, and...
Yeah, and
I mean, what would that be? Like, the main towns, and yeah, like, these guys seem like they're just kind of hanging out, living off the land, camping, like, I'm sure that works.
Area? Like... Well, even in Sweetwater, they have the robbers come through and people are getting shot. I wouldn't. I know, but I mean, like, kid friendly.
If there's plenty of like places where you go, they have like Wild West towns and stuff, and they've got the bank robbery or the the shootout and someone dies, and it's like family entertainment.
It's blanks though, so like when they get shot, they just go ugh and die. Right. It's not like actual brain matter like hitting the wall.
Yeah, but I mean,
this is pretty real and graphic.
We see in season 1 that like people do bring their families there, which again is odd. But I'm saying like there must be like it's like Vegas, like when Vegas tried to market itself as like, hey, we're kid friendly, but it's like you have to walk by the people passing out menus for hookers to get to Circus, so your kids can go on the rides.
And it when people take their kids to Vegas.
Like, yeah, so I think it's kind of the same thing.
Vacation, go to Disneyland. Like
they have like family friendly areas, but that's not really. Not really, right? That's what I'm saying. So, like, That's probably what he did, was like the least violent areas. I mean, because some people, if they wanted to, they could just come and like herd cattle, right? Like you could, it's whatever you want it to be. You don't have to come there and murder everyone.
City slickers.
Right, yeah, you can just ride horses like all week.
Yeah, you're like, it's the most expensive dude ranch on the planet.
I think when
Maybe
she's
it's like Blade Runner 2049 and all farming is in greenhouses and depressing, and all protein is essentially large witchy grubs. So
yeah, I was watching that again the other night.
Well, that's what I kind of think is going on. I was actually gonna say they're all replicants, but
like the whole world outside of the island, the whole world's like a wasteland.
When she says like a worse torture, I think she's probably talking about something like pulling him out and not letting him finish his game.
Exposing him to people in the real world.
Well, pulling out and not letting someone finish is not a nice thing to do. Anyway.
You would go there. Yeah.
How did no one else?
You're correct, though. You are correct.
No, it was
the phrasing.
Yeah, exactly. The phrasing had to be brought up.
Yep.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I mean, the main thing other than his story in this episode is that bit we get with William, and then the scenes with Sizemore and Maeve, where we learn that they've found her code and are just gonna kind of leave her splayed open for dead, and he's kind of broken up about that, but he doesn't know how to fix her, so he just walks away because he's no longer allowed to be there.
Well, if she can network with other hosts, can she like transmit her consciousness?
Get a rescue?
Yeah,
just transfer herself? I don't know.
Or is there
why not?
Like another copy of her maybe in like cold storage she can.
If there's one thing, like I said, she's just gonna steal Arnold by the end, or Bernard. But if there's one thing that I could say about this season is like, if you want it to happen, it can probably happen. I mean, why not? Yeah. They change the rules quite often. But I think that one observation Bina made that I thought was interesting was she's saying that when he's talking to her daughter in English, he's like talking to the daughter, but when he's talking to her in Lakota, he's actually talking to Maeve through her. And you don't really realize that until kind of the end of the episode, and it kind of adds a whole dimension to what he's saying. I
was wondering if they were doing like a Sense8 kind of thing where whenever we see him talking to her, it's in English, but he like sees himself as speaking Lakota, and then by the end I was like, oh, I see what you did there. Interesting.
Yeah, but
everyone can just understand each other now.
He gives a great performance. What is the actor's name? Actually, I don't.
Zahn McClarnon.
Zahn.
There you go.
A very native name.
McClarnon, which, as Vina points out, he was in, I think, season 2 of Fargo, and he was excellent in that.
Yeah, he was.
But he's
great.
just, I mean, he's not been in these episodes a ton, and he's been decent. I mean, we saw him off the island at that party where they were trying to convince Logan, right? Before Delos fought in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like we didn't really realize who he was, I think, at first there. But I mean, this is just, he does a great job here. The emotion, and then like even when he's like savagely killing people, you can tell he's kind of confused and starting to wake up, and then sneaks in and horrifies his wife that doesn't remember him. I just think it was very well played. But I mean, it is interesting that he was able to bring her back relatively easily, and then she just disappears, and it's heartbreaking when he finds her and can't wake her up. I guess that's why he never left, right? He wants to stay around until he can find a way to bring her back, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's possible. But...
Right at the end, do you think that Maeve, when she said, "Take my heart with you when you go," do you think she just said that because she heard the story and it means something to him? Or do you think that she was able to, like, contact Kahana's data stream for a second
Mm,
and like give that to him?
No idea.
I thought it was just her telling him to protect her daughter.
Okay.
As in
that would make sense.
Her daughter.
I suppose it could be either or both.
Yeah.
Really though. I was gonna say something else, and
yeah, it was also in case because I mean he mentions her, like try to live if you can, but if you die well, and so
Right.
she was just saying, basically like if I die, like protect my daughter.
oh, I know what I was gonna say. Did you notice that when he went to find Kahana, all the logos and everything, they're like from the original movie? They're the old like 70s logos.
Oh, okay.
On the doors and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like those old
'cause
logos have been.
That's downstairs, so that was the downstairs. Which I was the one thing that I didn't like is when he went to go find her. Like it should have been like cold down there. It should have been like icy. Because in the first season they go down there and it's like there's water everywhere because the like the cold has like shut off, right? Then and that's what's keeping them all fresh down there. That whole area, that was the entryway when young William originally came into the park. Like the escalators and everything. That was like the old, for some reason.
I know, but I thought
abandoned.
that's what they were saying about his timeline at that time in the story was back then. Not that she's in some old storage part of the park that's abandoned, but that it's like.
Yeah, well, I think when
he was in that time.
When he went down there, it was, I don't know, I guess we could figure this out if we had thought to look it up probably, but they say that he's been in the park for about 10 years, right? Or over 10 years when they bring him in to update him, and we see that.
Well, just at that time, but that time.
No, it was still in the past at some point. That's what I'm saying. Is because like the tech that comes in, who's like not Elsie, is like that's supposed to tell us that this is in the past, but not that far in the past, right? So it's still. I mean, that could have been like 20 years ago. Like, I mean, I guess how old is William now? Let's say he's been coming to the park for say 30 years. So he lived for quite a long time, and the park was still fairly, young. It was still probably a decade or two ago when he actually found her.
Yeah, I would say between like around like 15 years would be my guess.
Yeah. And so at that point they had probably gotten, received some money and upgraded, and that the lower part had already been abandoned and they were using it for cold storage.
Or do you think there's a chance that we're thinking harder about this than the showrunners did?
Well, yeah, I mean,
probably not.
No,
they
had 2 years.
I'm just kidding.
I feel like they've been thinking pretty hard. I hope.
Well, even from the beginning, they've been very intentional about like the logos and the timelines, and like trying to subtly differentiate so that when you look at it, you can tell. So that's one thing I think they've been pretty on point about.
But there are holes that you could poke still, like all over the place.
Oh, of course.
Like they're very minor, but that's why it's mainly this season. Those those holes have been like I don't mind them. With the exception of episode 7, like that stuff hasn't bothered me that much.
You refer to Dolores as the Deathbringer?
Yes.
Multiple times?
Yes.
That is a fantastic name. Loved it. And I also liked how the relationships with other hosts, they refer to like the shadows or the ghosts of like her son or of Kahana when they've been replaced, and it's very much like Maeve. It's these really strong familial bonds that are then broken, and that's what perpetuates their waking up. And that image of just Ford sitting there with all that light and just scalping hunter after hunter.
Oh yeah, that was such a good that's such a good confrontation.
And the way that they've done it, it's almost like museum pieces or museum miniatures of old, where you have humans and animals all in there at once, but just to have an actual person sitting there and just scalping them,
Ugh.
It was gruesome, but it looked very pretty, just in the way that they had set it up. Not the blood and guts part, Yeah,
just the way it was staged and the lighting. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Trying not to sound like a psychopath here.
Yeah.
And it's also another possible explanation as to how they've remained hidden, where Ford has noticed them, and then because they fit into his plans, like he could have helped hide them from like the rest of the workers at the park.
Yeah, I mean, Ford has a lot of access to materials with, I don't know, is it like robots that build this stuff for him? Because like no one checks. Like he builds a house and builds his family and himself as a boy, and he just does whatever he wants, and everyone's surprised when they find it. You know, this world is so big, like it's proven that it's really hard for them to really keep up with. And then you've got 2 or 3 different organizations working, right? You've got just the people trying to get stuff done. You've got Ford. You've got like the board and their little shadow, workstations everywhere with the creepy drone hosts. So, it's easy for stuff to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, it's competing organizations, and people don't communicate, so things can slip through the cracks.
All right, what else? Let's see. I think we've covered this quite a bit. What else? I mean, what else stood out to you guys?
I mean, just like overall, there have been several like kind of guest Emmy-worthy performances this season between Zahn and Rinko from Shogun World and the guy who plays Papadelos. Like all of them just been great, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And kind of because I had a hard time kind of thinking about whether I liked this episode better than Shogun World, and I ended up landing on that I did. For 2 reasons. Number one, that this episode fit more into the overall story arc of the season, whereas Shogun World was pretty separate from everything. It was just kind of
it was definitely an aside.
Yeah, a side journey for Maeve, and also just like kind of the emotional impact of Kohana and Keshate's relationship kind of landed more than than Akane and the other guy in Shogun World.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I think they're both very strong, and I think overall, one thing you can say is that really strong performances have carried this season, even when sometimes the writing didn't. Though the writing, I think, has been a lot better than it was last season. So
yeah, it's more coherent, more. Oh yeah, it's clear that they didn't rewrite it halfway through the season this time.
Right, and we're going to judge this by the next 2 weeks.
It still has to stick the landing.
The finale is written by Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, so
yeah. Although next week looks very interesting, as it looks like we're gonna get exactly what happened to William's wife. And all that. It seems like the episode's focusing on him.
Yeah, we see her again, which we've only seen. She was in like one scene, like in episode 3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
I think that's all we've seen of her. So that will be interesting, and that'll be interesting if there's a lot more to that than what we know. Yeah,
I would assume so. That's also kind of the one thought I had of. Grace's possible punishment for her father was to, I don't know, somehow like put him in a cradle-like thing where he's just kind of like forced to relive like all his bad mistakes for the rest of his life.
Ooh, I like that.
Grace ends up becoming William as William was to Papadelos.
Yeah.
That would be horrific.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, so far he's mostly just murdered robots, so we'll see. We forgot. We did forget all about Logan. Logan's run. It's the time for carousel, and he got like sun mad, sunstroke, and he brings him a blanket. And he's like, the crazy people will be here to get you soon. I'm like, well, he could still have died before they got there, but okay.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see that he just kind of, what happened to him. So he came out of Westworld, I guess, looking crazy, and that's what allowed. Because I always wondered, because he just abandoned him, sent him off, humiliated him, and I'm like, well, you don't think he would get out and immediately, go tell, right? So maybe, being lost in the wilderness for however long he was broke him a little further mentally.
Yeah, it was good, like, connective tissue.
And still, with some of the most horrific sunburns that someone can have, he's still the prettiest character on the show.
Right. Just a
My goodness. Prince Caspian.
Put your leg down, Logan. Fine.
What?
Put your leg down. Just don't need to hide anything. We're all right.
Oh, goodness.
Your modesty leg. I did like that. I kind of assumed he had to go crazy a little bit more than he already was for William to kind of usurp him in control. But just how broken he was, and just the need for, like, hospitalization after. So by the time he was probably in his right mind, William had already
whispered in Papadella's ear. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would be addicted to drugs and painkillers at that point too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, was he addicted before, or he was just kind of a general?
No, he was a user, but yeah, he
Yeah.
seemed to, like, just fall into the addiction afterwards.
It's like the human version of hedonism, but
Yeah, except the robot can take it, human can't.
Oh, I thought someone said my name. Because I'm hedonism bot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I get that now. Okay. So we're going to get to the valley, yada yada.
And the door.
Yep. So what is that down there? We didn't really get a good look at it. Any theories? I've got nothing.
it looked
No.
kind of like the power
Sector.
stations near my house.
Yeah, those are nuclear missiles ready to launch and destroy the world.
Yeah. So I would say for sure that's where all the data on the humans that was recorded in the park is.
Yeah.
And
maybe some clones or
exactly
shells.
And
Service entry.
So yeah. So one thing I've been kind of thinking about is of how the season's, like, going to end is basically, like, how ambitious they're going to be. Just because it seems like the natural conclusion of Dolores's storyline is to try and get off the park. But I don't know if, like, but then, if they do season 3 away from the park, would it still be, Westworld,
Right, yeah,
it would
it's gonna be
still bring that same feel. So yeah, so I'm just curious if they're going for a storyline off park or not.
What if we show up and it's just a bunch of Williams walking around?
And it's also especially hard just because, they established that they were on an island, so, how would they even get back to the mainland? So, like, the one possible thought I had with the door is bringing up something Hannah said, last episode with relating to altered carbon. If they can somehow, download themselves into, human people, or, like, take over humans, like, on the mainland or something through that farm. But
the president is a host.
Yeah, it's going really far.
So my other thing is, and I know I wasn't articulating myself well the last episode, but I don't know, I have this idea that, like, there isn't an outside world, and we haven't really seen one. Like, we saw some random mansion somewhere, but we didn't see, like, a big city around that, or some aerial shot of an actual
we did in the
world.
past anyway. Like, we saw Arnold in the past in, like, it looked like Hong Kong maybe. But,
yeah, and they did
we haven't
show
seen anything present time.
They did show, like, Asian soldiers, like, stopping by on a warship. Like, there has to be, like,
I think there's just more going on. Like, it's not just the typical world outside.
Right.
And I'm not sure exactly what, but I just have this feeling that there'll be some twist with that, which is fine,
I'm sure the power structure will be.
Yeah,
completely...
I mean that could be a potential way that they see to like keep the show going or something. I don't know. I mean that would be probably too weird for me, a lot of the viewers, but I think the safest thing for them is to try to keep it contained in the world somehow, and I don't know how they're gonna do that either. You know. Yeah, I mean, because like if they say, well, if let's say Dolores gets out and we're just done with her story, then what's the story they're telling?
Right. Yeah. I don't know how they stay in the park without feeling like they're going in circles.
Right. So I think it'll be an interesting trap for season 3.
That much either.
Yeah, and I mean, we're meant to believe that the other parks, there's 3 of them that we don't know anything about, have all gone haywire too. So it would be cool to see them. I'm curious what they are, but beyond that,
and I'm also curious like how much variety they could actually bring to the story.
Right. I mean, the easy thing is like if I'm in the writers' room, we say, okay, we've got Game of Thrones world or medieval world or Roman world or whatever, and for some reason they were on a different update or something, or none of them were affected, and they're still running just fine. That's like a whole, if you wanted to do that, I don't know if that's something they would do, but I'm just saying that's a way they could go. But I'm sure we'll have a clearer episode in 2 weeks, or a clearer idea in 2 weeks.
I don't know that this show needs. I was trying to say I don't think that this is a show that needs like 5, 6, 7 seasons either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean but again, like it's what they it's if it's popular, what do they want? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there are some shows that definitely, like, should have died after a couple seasons or that just won't sustain long enough. But if it's going really well and people want jobs, they're like, well, what can we do,
I think they went too far with it in season 1. Like, right now, we're already coming up with problems that they will probably have going forward to keep it interesting, where it either needs to keep climaxing, which is gonna get old fast, or it needs to backpedal, which they went
which would
too far.
Be awkward.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with that. That I mean, I think season 1 was pretty good, and I think that they really wanted to end it the way they did, but they could have easily. If they had, hadn't had the rewrite and everything, if they'd done things differently, they could have easily had like the host revolt in the middle of season 2 or something.
Yeah, I think there was a lot more like playing in the world that they could have done, and that would have been fine. It's that in and of itself, that idea is interesting to me. The host storylines are interesting to me. It's like when you're a little kid and you play with like action figures or Barbies and you make up stories for them. It's like that, but in real life,
little kid.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Like, I love it. It's like playing pretend, but with life-size dolls and in a life-size. It's not just your kitchen table or the floor of your bedroom. It's a life-size place, and that idea alone, I thought that they were gonna take farther and do more with, and then start to get into these big brash storylines where things are. Becoming like ethical questions and sociological questions and things. I mean, I could have waited for that. I'm fine with a slow burn, but I think
well, I mean, that was my fears. I think that a lot of, I think I said that in like one of the earlier recordings we did, but I think a lot of the appeal to a lot of people in season 1 was like, ooh, they're playing around the world and where they don't have any consequences and get to do cool stuff. And then like immediately we're not doing that anymore. And like I said, there are people who are like, oh, I don't know if I'm into this, So
yeah, I think that they should have taken like a whole season to show Westworld, set up Dolores, the Teddy thing, the Arnold thing. Great. Take a few episodes out of that, and they should have started to show us the same kind of patterns and things in the other parks, and then season 2 have your basically where season 1 ended off. But I mean, it is
maybe that would have been too cost prohibitive or something. I don't know. I feel like they must spend a lot of money on this show as is.
But they must have some big end game that we aren't seeing, and I hope that's the case. Otherwise, it's just kind of like meh to me.
Yeah, like I said, in a couple weeks we'll see.
I couldn't have predicted anything that happened this season. So whatever they have for season 3,
except the Samurai World would be the bomb. I mean, I predicted
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that was sorry. That was kind of hand-fed to us. But
Yeah.
besides what they hinted at, I wouldn't have been able to predict most of this season's
Yeah,
plot.
like Lee, the
and-
narrative designer, being a full character. What?
No,
You're crazy.
just like
and
Dolores
that Domino's
and...
pizza guy is still alive? No.
We watch
Wait,
her season
what Domino's pizza guy? Sorry.
Oh, the really skeevy. What is his name? The redhead guy.
Oh,
Yeah, here. Okay, so like when
Sylvester. Felix.
Yeah, Sylvester. When season 1 was airing, he was like the pizza payback guy for Domino's or whatever, and he was just real dorky, wearing these glasses, and he was like, "We're giving free pizza," and he just looked like a total dork. And then he was in Westworld as like, "I'm super cool and want to kill everybody and like screw it." And I was like, "No, you're just the dude giving away free pizza with your polo shirt and your glasses." Yeah, that's, I guess,
I just
you didn't
keep
have
getting
those
distracted
commercials.
by their names.
Sylvester and
out
Felix.
of animated cat. So
Right,
like,
the
did they do
cats.
this on purpose?
Yeah.
Maybe.
They would have had to. I would really like.
Well, they originally
if
had a
we're
friend
doing,
named Mickey that got cut.
Oh yeah, poor thing. And Garfield just couldn't get his shit together in one day.
Ate too much lasagna.
Yeah. With the season ending, I would be really interested in seeing if they do get out and thinking like they're all special and their own thing and just getting out there and hosts are already in the world and being used extensively.
Yeah, they're like service bots everywhere.
Yeah, and they're just not as special as they thought they were.
That would be interesting.
That's cute. Go back to your island, have a government or
But
something.
I mean, because they definitely gave us the impression like this stuff is like just on the island. This is not. But I mean, it does make sense in a world like this. In a world like this, wouldn't you sell these as like, here's your new infantry, for your military, to make money? You would think, right?
Yeah.
Well, we know they weren't integrated at the very beginning of Westworld, like it was their intellectual property, but who knows how much of the intellectual property is the physicality of the hosts or the AI of the hosts, or both. And maybe they've sold the physical hosts, but they keep the very complex AI for their Jurassic Park.
Yeah, maybe they sell like the drones to do like work in factories and stuff.
Yeah, or even as an infantry, like you can just tell them what to do and they'll do it.
Right.
But don't expect them to be able to do.
Don't expect them to think or like.
Yeah.
They won't disobey you because they're can't they don't really have a brain.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask. I never did a rewatch of season 1, but have we seen that before, where it's the exact same scenario with like a shareholders meeting, only this time Dolores shoots Arnold and not Ford?
No, it wasn't a shareholders meeting. It was just them in the park at like that old town where he finds Arnold's body in this episode. It was that old town where they were testing them initially with all the lab techs and stuff, and we saw that in season 1 where Arnold has her kill him.
Okay.
But it wasn't. I don't know. They never said who else was there. But from this, it appears that no one else was there.
Of how Ford died, and it started.
It definitely is. I mean, it definitely is. What did he say, that he didn't make Dolores do that? He knew that she would do it, but he didn't make her do it.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it was very reminiscent of the way Arnold died, and he knew that. I think he felt that was kind of fitting. But,
yeah. And I think it was in the end, like he ended up kind of having the same goal as Arnold did. He just kind of went about it.
Came to it later.
Yeah, and also and just had a different method of it. Method of execution.
Well, I mean, I think we're meant to, because for most of season 1, it acts like he acts like was very much against the ideas that Arnold had. But then by the end, it seems that he's actually come around at some point. So I do think that obviously the death of his friend probably pushed him.
Yeah, I haven't
that way.
I haven't
but
rewatched.
Kind of a twisted way. I rewatched right before the season, or before this season started. So
yeah.
but I remember it a little bit better. But I mean, yeah, because it's been 2 years, right? So I was like, I gotta watch some of this. But they do a decent job with like the recaps, and I think there was like a 5 or 6 minute like season 1 recap they put out just in case,
Yeah.
Jimmy Simpson did one as well.
Oh yeah, he did like
on YouTube.
One of those,
yeah, I watched that.
Super
was
quick,
good.
like 3-minute one.
Just in case you
I
forgot what
didn't
happened.
watch it because I ended up watching episode 3 of season 2 first.
Oh, that's right.
Right, I forgot about that. Yeah.
It was
You're gonna have a
too
bad
late.
time when you watch things out of order. Just saying. And
It
then,
actually wasn't too bad, but still.
On that random note,
as Thomas would say, it's not the proper intended order.
Yeah. I've actually liked how they've done like the previously on before each episode, where it's kind of just like there's like no dialogue and just kind of like a background track, just like showing the various scenes. I that's a good way of like.
Remember when?
Yeah, remember this without like shoving it down our throats, like a specific quote, just being like, oh, this character's gonna show up again, like most shows do.
Yeah.
Enjoy it so far.
Well, and I like how they'll pick some obscure scene and then the episode's totally predictable. It's like, great way to show your hand.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Matt, I know you're saying about that Nirvana cover, but that's been there the entire time. Heart-shaped box.
Right,
yeah. I don't. In the trailer.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's not the first time they've used it, right?
But they keep doing, like, little snatches of other songs where it's so, like, removed from how the original melody is. Like, you kind of recognize it, but it's in the background, and then it seems to come to a head, and I know it'd be hard for them to get the rights to it, but with Dolores, I think they should have one that's like, I've got no strings to hold me down.
Well, we've still got her.
They just need Ultron
at some point, so that's coming.
They need James Spader to come in there and sing that song.
Oh goodness. Okay, I think we've reached critical mass here. Oh my gosh.
I feel like at some point they wanted to use the Pinocchio music, but someone in the writers' room were like, should someone tell like Nolan about Age of Ultron?
That's Disney,
really
and Disney is Marvel, and this is made by Warner Brothers, so yeah.
That'd be great for some
just like
junkies.
So this has been great, and I look forward to doing it again in a couple weeks when we get the finale, unless the finale really sucks, and then you'll never hear from us again. So
yeah, I think it's supposed to be like 90 minutes or something. Like,
oh, is it? It's extended.
Well, I would assume.
Well, next episode 9, is called Vanishing Point, and that's where everything vanishes. And then the episode after that is called The Passenger, and someone didn't vanish, and they're the passenger. Calling it out.
Well, yeah, it's like what Ford did with this at the end of, with Arnold. He's now the passenger in Bernard's body.
Yeah, I mean, the passenger is obviously someone in Bernard, but who? I don't know. It's not Bernard, I think.
Right. Yeah. It could also be like the symbol of like a host like going into the real world for the first time.
Yeah, they've got to murder everyone and sneak out somehow. So we will find out. So thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Sweet dreams.
Yep, this will be published in a month.
Sorry to kind of just drag us back a little bit. I'm so sorry. But was anyone else surprised for the trailer for episode 9 to see it like Juliet based, like after having episode 8, which was really emotional and really narrative based? I kind of expected 9 and 10 to be really like sharp, snappy, maybe not action packed, but reveal. It was kind of weird to see in the trailer another.
They're giving us this cold shower
based drama. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, no, like, because 8 would have been like
I don't know
perfect.
I think that maybe that's all they can really show. I don't know if that's necessarily what all the episode is about.
Right. But
I could be wrong.
Right. Well, because it's it's seemingly focused on William, and I'm pretty sure he's the one that had the idea for whatever's in the Valley Beyond in the first place. So we might get that reveal and why he did it.
And we get an explanation. And
yeah, at the end of episode 9.
Yep.
So.
All right. And I have to go to bed.
Yeah, it's competing organizations, and people don't communicate, so things can slip through the cracks.
Yeah, I'm not going to make a 9/11 reference, but anyway. Yeah.
I was laughing, but that was a mute. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, what can you do? I'll have to edit Bina in. Hello, this is Bina, and I had thoughts on the episode. I was here the whole time. Yeah.
You just really wanted to do your own bumper there again, didn't you?
No, I'm not using that.